On this channel, $1 Million Made Easy, we love to run numbers for people. I recently ran across this article from Yahoo Finance. He said in 2023, the average American retiree had 170,726 in savings, approximately, and now it's way lower than the recommended 555,000, which Fidelity came up with. That's 10 times your ending salary. So the goal was 555,000. If you wanted to reach a million, about 8 to 10% of people got that, but that's for another video. Let's just use this 555,000. Let's say it's time to retire. Individual is 555,000. Age 62. And they want to give themselves a 3% COLA. And they want to do a 70-30 asset split. Just showing you some of the variables we can do on this channel. And the S&P 500 is what we use because most people are trying to match it and most people don't make it over the long term. So we're just going to use the returns for the S&P 500 because we have 100 years worth of data, both the good times, the bad times, and everything in between. So we're just going to run the numbers. 555,000 with a 3% COLA, and the average retiree's expenses was like 4,800 or something. I'm just going to run it at 5,000. And the average Social Security is 1907. We're just going to do all the averages here, and we're going to see how it would have worked out in the last 100 years. I'm going to make sure all my variables are right here. So that first year, take into account Social Security and the 5,000 they need, that'd be 3,093, increasing that by 3% a year. 30% staying in the cash reserve, or 70% staying in the S&P 500, and 30% going over some kind of a bucket over here that's paying, we'll just say it's paying 4%. We can change any of these variables. So let's see how many times in the last 100 years you would have had a problem with this scenario, given the good times, the bad times, and like I said, everything in between. How many times would you be running out of money? Looks like 26% of the time you'd run out of money in 20 years, and 42% of the time you run out of money in 30 years. So what could we do differently? We could cut back on the COLA. Let's see how much that might affect these numbers. This is the 20-year, this is the 30-year. 2% COLA, 17 and 27. How about we go to 4,750 a month? Let's go ahead and update that. I'd like to see this below 10% actually. Now we're down to 9% for 20 years and 18% for 30 years. Let's go one more lower. Remember, you were planning on 5,000, but let's just say you cut back to 4,500 because you want to feel more comfortable that your chances of success are as great as possible. So with 4,500, we're down to 6% in 20 years and 7% in 30 years. Here's the 20% graph. How many times would you run out of money? Around the Depression years, and we know 2000 was also kind of problematic because you had a bad decade right here. But every other scenario, it looks like you'd be in really good shape with 4,500 if you take into account Social Security and a 2% COLA. Let's just do one other thing. Let's do a 60-40 split, see if this changes the percentages at all. Got 6 and 7% right now, 6% over 20 years, 7% over 30 years. And actually it gets a little bit worse. Let's go to 80-20. You really want to stay as much as you can in the S&P 500 because that's going to beat inflation over the long run. At least historically it has. Looks like 70-30 is just basically the best scenario. 70% staying in the S&P 500, 30% going over into cash reserve. But I just wanted to run the averages with this 555,000, how somebody would have fared if they needed 5,000 a month. It was a little bit questionable. We went down to 4,500, and with a 2% COLA, it looks like it would succeed most times, except around the Depression years, and also because the year 2000, the decade of 2000, 2009 was problematic. We were running out of money, but most every other scenario you'd be just fine. Let's do 2001 and 2002. By the time you got 2002, it looks like you're still have 176,000 after 20 years, so you're not completely running out of money. But that's what we do in this channel. We run numbers for people. I just wanted to run the averages because this is what the Fidelity was recommending, 555,000. Most people weren't getting there, but if they did get there, how would they fare given the typical expense for the retiree of 5,000 a month? We saw it was a little problematic, 4,500 was a lot more doable and with a 2% COLA instead of a 3% COLA. Please consider subscribing to this channel. We love to run numbers for people. We run all kinds of different variables. As you can see, we'll show you the numbers. Please like the video, share the video, and thanks for watching.